You're gonna have to forgive me if I cough or sneeze at any time during the recording of this video. I've been battling a bit of a flu, and so you're probably gonna notice my voice is gonna become a little bit more more husky as the time goes by. But I want to start this conversation with something that I said yesterday. Well, yesterday being when I posted the previous video. I'm not sure when you're gonna be watching this, but um, basically, it was your quest for perfection is actually, here we go, your quest for perfection is actually procrastination in disguise. And the reason a lot of us, myself inclusive, procrastinate really is because we are afraid. We're afraid of failing, we're afraid of just getting it wrong. Like, I'm going to be real with you. Like, this is the third time I'm recording this video, and I almost didn't go through with it because I've been battling a flu, like I said. My voice isn't exactly what it should be. It's a bit gravelly. I'm coughing, I'm sneezing, and common sense told me to wait until I got better, wait until I recuperated, wait until I didn't feel, wait until I felt a lot better so I don't have to get into a lot of editing and it could be smoother and I could have a better experience. But you have to embrace what I call the boredom of consistency. Yeah. You got to embrace the boredom of consistency. And what I mean by that is everything you've become good at, you have become consistent at, right? And these things that you've become consistent at have become habits. They've become inevitably a lifestyle, right? Brushing your teeth, you do that every day. At least I hope so. Simply because you have embraced the boredom of consistency. So the rhythm of waking up and going into the bathroom and brushing your teeth and doing it again before you go to bed is embracing the boredom of consistency, right? Taking a shower is embracing the boredom of consistency. I'm going to leave all these coughs and things in the video. It's not perfect, it just has to be done, right? That's embracing the boredom of consistency. Everything you've done successfully driving, you learned how to drive by embracing the boredom of consistency, right? I go to the gym. At least I try to go as consistently as possible, which for me is 4 days a week. And when I go to the gym, I notice that everyone is embracing the boredom of consistency. When you're running on the treadmill, there really isn't a very creative way to spruce up your treadmill experience. Like, could you dance a Zumba? Perhaps you could. Could you do the Macarena? Perhaps you could. Could you creep walk? Yes, you could. But when you think about it, getting on the treadmill requires you just putting one foot in front of the other. And ultimately, putting one foot in front of the other builds a cadence. And that ultimately builds a level of consistency. When I go to the gym and I work out and I'm lifting weights, there's really no sexy way to improve a dumbbell curl. Do you get what I mean? It's just the same boring, consistent motion of picking up the iron, picking up the dumbbell, and curling consistently. It's boring. It's not sexy. It's not fun. But guess what? It works. And the truth about it is, when you go to the gym, you can't exactly pinpoint the moment that you became swole. You can't pinpoint the moment that your muscles tore and all of a sudden you have a six pack. You can't pinpoint the exact time when change occurred, but change occurred because you've been embracing the boredom of consistency. And in the same way, for habits that you're not particularly productive, as an example, maybe like social media, doom scrolling, getting lost on TikTok, getting lost in a platform. And that's great. That's great for entertainment purposes. But then the concern then becomes that you've also embraced the boredom of consistency. You're building a routine for something that maybe you don't necessarily want to build mastery in. And I say all of this to say that many times we get caught up in not doing the things that will give us mastery. And we're not attaining mastery because we're procrastinating. And your quest for perfection is actually procrastination in disguise, right? Your quest for perfection is procrastination in disguise. Like, I've worked with many clients, entrepreneurs, individuals, who need some sort of business coaching or strategy or life coaching as an example. And they know that there's a huge milestone they want to achieve. There's a goal. You know how it is. Um, like, you decided, that's my wife laughing in the background, if you can hear that, right? But you decided a goal, maybe like New Year's, you decided a goal and you said, this is what I want to do, but you lost sight of the goal because you didn't embrace the boredom of consistency. Now, going into the action, many times we procrastinate because we're afraid, and our quest for perfection is actually procrastination in disguise. So you know that there's a goal you want to achieve, but you get caught up in micro motions that don't move the needle, right? You get caught up in majoring on the minors and minoring on the majors. You get caught up in, I had a client that I was working with, and, she was talking about doing something, building or launching her website. And she spent months literally working on the website. And I'm like, what's taking you so long? Because she was doing it herself. And she was like, well, I'm not happy with the font. I'm not happy with the colors. So she was just changing different things. She was dotting her I's and crossing her T's. She was changing the fonts and changing the color. But the most important motion that she should have been focused on was actually launching the website. But she was afraid to do it because in reality, she was afraid. Your quest for perfection is procrastination in disguise. It's the perfection paradox. So you want it to be perfect, so you spend time spinning your wheels and going nowhere. It's like being on a treadmill. You're running 10 miles an hour, but you're literally going nowhere. There is the appearance of motion, but there's no movement. And I think sometimes that's what happens in our lives. We go about what we're doing, we give the appearance of motion, but in reality, we're not moving. Anyone who looks at you will think, oh, they're getting about their day, they're doing it, they're crushing it, they're ruthless, they're executing. But in reality, what you're doing is you're giving the semblance of motion, but you're going nowhere. So you're spinning your wheels and burning because you're not doing the things that matter. Will you please fail? Will you please fail? Like, you need to be okay with failure. You've got to be okay with failure. I remember an experience that was really, really profound. It just brings this home. And every time I think about this, I always laugh. Back home in Nigeria, where I lived for most of my life, a couple of years ago, I organized, a friend of mine who also is a phenomenal coach, a sales coach of international repute, reached out to me. He was like, hey, Steve, you and I are both phenomenal, particularly about, selling out our events and our conferences. I think it'll be a great idea for us to collaborate and organize an event where we can teach other thought leaders and coaches and consultants how to sell out their events. So I was like, hey, cool, sounds great. Let's do it. So we put the logistics together. We, splurged on a really nice event center, got a lot of materials and stuff like that ready to crush our presentations. We put out a lot of money on ad spend and things like that. I'm leaving this in, right? Ad spend and things like that. And yeah, we were hoping, maybe not hoping, we were doing our marketing and we expected to have a full house. And long story short, people were saying, hey, well, can we pay at the venue? Because that's a thing. In Nigeria, people can't actually pay at the venue. And long story short, a day to the event, we literally had no one register, but people had said, well, I'm coming to the venue, I'll show up, don't worry about it, I'm going to be there. A couple of minutes to the event, guess how many people who had showed up to the venue? I'm going to pause for you to, give me a good number, drop it in the comments, 10, 100, I'm Steve Harris, I'm a big deal, you know what I'm saying? But hate to burst your bubble, at the end of the day, we had zero, like zilch, diddly squat, nada, not a soul showed up for this event. that was ironically called How to Sell Out Your Events. We couldn't sell out our events. I kind of think that, I always joke about it, that perhaps maybe the coaching community were beefing, like, who made you guys Lord and Master Overs? We're going to show you, you know what I mean? And long story short, no one showed up for an event that was called How to Sell Out Your Events. It's quite ironic, isn't it? Now, at that moment, we could have decided to have a bad day. We could have decided to throw a pity party, get angry. Of course, we'd spent a lot of money. We lost money, but we chose to respond differently to the stimulus, the external stimulus, right? So we couldn't change the stimulus, which was a failed event, but we could deliberately work on our response, which would give us a different outcome. So we decided to laugh about it. We joked about it. We poked fun at each other. We went stupid. We were just like, imagine this. We organized an event called Sell Your Events, and we couldn't sell our event. This is crazy. We just turned it into a humorous thing, and that changed the outcome for us. And I say this to say, many times we're so concerned about the externals, the situation, but we choose our responses. So we choose to get angry. We could have decided to get angry, and it would have been valid, but we decided to work on our response. We decided to give a different response that was expected. You're in control of your emotions, and we got a different outcome. All of this to say, failure means nothing except the response you give it. Failure literally means nothing except the response that you give it. So if we had chosen to get down in the dumps, throw a pity party, we truly would have epitomized failure. And every time we thought about it, we'd have negative emotions. But every time I think about that event, I smile, I laugh. I'm like, come on, maybe it is what it is. You know what I mean? Failure means nothing apart from the response or the emotion you associate with it. So my point is this, so I don't ramble, is will you please fail? Think about it. What's the worst that could happen? Think about it. Deal with it in your mind and then move forward. If you feel like, you know what, irrespective of the consequences, I feel like I need to try by all means. Will you please fail? Because when you fail, you would have achieved way much more than someone who's sitting on their asses and they're not doing anything. You would have tried more than others who are still processing and thinking about what could potentially go wrong. Will you please fail? Stop procrastinating. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. I'm recording this video as it is, right? I'm coughing. I'm not exactly 100% healthy, but it's got to be done. Why? Because I've chosen to embrace the boredom of consistency. And I'm going to do this until it becomes muscle memory, and then it becomes a habit, and then I become a lot more comfortable getting on video and then sharing my thoughts with you guys. So it is what it is. Like I've said, 3 core things. Number 1, embrace the boredom of consistency. Number 2, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. Number 3, will you please fail? And I believe number 4 should be, failure means nothing except, the emotion you associate with it or the response you associate with it. So enough said. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Catch you in a bit.